As always, thank you so much to all our presenters, Ignacio, Emmanuel, Conrado, and Jose. It's been such a pleasure to host you and to have you present today. In the interest of time, we're going to move directly to our panelist of chefs. I will encourage the audience to put their questions into the Q&A. If you have travel-related questions, we will make sure to keep all questions registered and communicate directly with our presenters today. We've gone a little bit over time with these wonderful presentations, and we want to make sure that our chefs have equal amount of time to talk food. This is the second exciting part of this event. So let's start bringing in our chefs. First of all, I'd like to welcome Gabriela Camara. Gabriela is the chef at Cala, a restaurant here in San Francisco that you may know, but she also has her restaurant in Mexico, Contramar, which is very famous and has wonderful gourmet Mexican food. Gabriela, I see you as a panelist. Can you go ahead and turn on your camera now? I'd also like to welcome Javier Cusato.
Thank you.
There you are. Hi, good to see you. Welcome.
So good to see you. Thank you, Jolyn.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us this morning. I'd like to also bring up Javier Cusato. Javier is the chef, the executive chef at La Mar here in San Francisco. La Mar, as you may have heard from Conrado, is part of the restaurant chains owned by the famous Gaston Acurio. La Mar is one of my personal favorite restaurants, just like Cala here in San Francisco. And for those of you who have never been, it sits on the Embarcadero. Javier, welcome. If you want to go ahead and turn on your camera, we'd love to have you. And next up, we also have Juan Pablo Clerici, I hope I'm saying that right, chef at Café Misterio, the very famous and beautiful restaurant that serves sushi and other Uruguayan-inspired dishes right near the Sofitel in Carrasco, for those of you who have been in Montevideo. Juan Pablo, it's my pleasure to welcome you. Please join us and turn on your camera.
Hello, Jolene. Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting us.
It's so nice to see you all. We also had scheduled Chef Alejandra. She is a new mother, and it appears that she has had an issue and will not be joining us this morning. She represents Ecuador and has a wonderful restaurant called Somos, which she had plans for international expansion. But in many ways, it gives us more time to chat here amongst ourselves. So I'd like to start it off with Javier. Javier, La Mar is definitely a restaurant that many of us know. It's right on the water. It's beautiful. However, I think most people that go to La Mar don't tap into the really rich food culture of Peru. So my question is twofold. What is the dish that most people order? And what is the dish you wish people ordered that you want to get out there?
So hi, everybody. I just wanted to say thank you for the chance to be here. We saw many great chefs. Well, here at La Mar, basically, the ceviche is our most popular dish. It is also a flag dish that we have in Peru. If you heard about Peru, it's going to be ceviche, the first thing that will come to your mind. Definitely, there are, among other dishes that we have here at La Mar, definitely lomo saltado is another very traditional, very popular dish that we have at La Mar, here at La Mar, which is our stir-fry beef style that we have here. I would definitely say that probably most of our tiraditos, it's a must-do here at La Mar, which is essentially same as a ceviche, but here we serve the fish laying down over the plate. That's what we call it, tiradito. Tirado in Spanish means laid like over a certain surface, and that's how we have called our dish. So yeah, I would say probably all the tiraditos are the best option for everybody to try.
That's great. Thank you, Javier. Gabby, I am a personal fan of the brand of your restaurant. I think it's pure San Francisco value. One thing that we really appreciate is that you took the leadership to hire previously incarcerated, train them, and have them work at your restaurant. In the many times that I've been at Cala, I've always gotten excellent service, and I actually didn't know about this until I read on Cala Later. Tell us a little bit about that, being a female and taking the leadership to change and provide social impact to our city.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I think, you know, what, I love talking about this because it has become a really important part of Cala. Unfortunately, Cala now is still closed and we don't know if we'll be able to open because it's in a part of the city that is still really rough and not, you know, not as many people walking around there other than homeless encampments, which is rather sad. But we are going to do something, we're working on something interesting that has to do with feeding the people. Anyway, we we always talk about ingredients and sustainability in terms of how we source in restaurants, but we have, for different reasons, not been forced or not been, we've sort of taken for granted the human part of our work. And in restaurants, having the awareness of how everything has to be integrated into one whole operation. I think we came about the notion of how in San Francisco, especially, I mean, in the whole world, but especially in San Francisco, it's very difficult to have, to find people who actually can live from their work in restaurants. And we wanted to provide, full benefits and wanted to provide sort of a full-time job for people who would appreciate that. And it happened to be that we found like a good match, people who needed a job, and we needed people who were willing to work in the job that we could give them. And it was a way of expanding sustainability in the restaurant. And I think, San Francisco has been such an example to the rest of the world in terms of sourcing well and amazing produce with the farmers that are in the Bay Area. And the human aspect of the restaurant business has always been only sort of focused on the guests. And I think a really important thing in our industry is to focus on our teams and who is doing what we offer. So that's my little grain of salt.
I couldn't agree more. And it's this wonderful mix of social impact, but really delicious food.
Thank you.
I'm a huge fan of Uruguay. As I've mentioned before, I've had the pleasure to go to Uruguay various times, about 8 different times in my life. And I think it's one of the world's best kept secrets. However, most of our audience has probably not heard of Uruguayan food. They may not even know that dulce de leche is a thing, and it's really a thing. And I'm happy there's no one from Argentina here because I personally think dulce de leche in Uruguay is better than in Argentina. That's my personal opinion. But Juan Pablo, tell us a little bit about the food in Uruguay, what your restaurant, Café Misterio specifically, I know you have another one in José Ignacio called Nam, but tell us the food and what you want us to know about Uruguay.
Let me introduce myself. I am Juan Pablo Clerici, 50 years old. I opened Café Misterio 28 years ago and still open. Uruguay, we are in the right time and the right place. I think that's the best way to identify our country, because to be little between 2 big countries like Argentina and Uruguay, and not to take attention of the world during all this time, because we have 2 big countries not letting us be the little one. But nowadays, the world is needing of little things. And the world of food, the world of astronomy, the real world, you can find it in little things, in the little producer. Now it's perhaps 15 years ago, if you spoke about a little fisherman that went with his little boat and got the fish for you, it wasn't perhaps trendy or important. Now that's the most important thing for us. Not only having the opportunity of have a very good quality food, but most important of it, it's making people living happier. Not only our client, but our providers we say in English, no? I'm a little bit, pero normally in Café Misterio, I used to work this way since 28 years ago. But nowadays, you can find this. My restaurant is in the city of Montevideo. my principal provider of fish is 5 minutes from here. And sometimes I go to fish with him. Then we go out at 2 o'clock in the morning. We come back at midday with the fish here in the middle of the city. So those little things I can make from here, from Café Misterio, 25 blocks, and have a beautiful slaughterhouse. I can do 10 minutes and I can find all my vegetables. So it's really, being little now, it's really important and really cozy. All the wineries are here, all the vineyards, the olive groves. We have everything in a little space. And nowadays that is worthy. So I think we are in the right place. We are so little and so well educated. I'm really happy. Uruguay was always been one of the most educated countries in Latin America. So all our country, like Nacho Guruelo, it's a long friend of mine from school, since we are 5 years old, has really good said. The most important thing in the COVID-19 in Uruguay was the education of our country and the empathy of all of our people with our president, with our new president. The president entered the government the 1st of March, 13 days after he got this thing that nobody knows how to explain it. So we are in a beautiful place. We have the most beautiful meat in the world. And hopefully there's no Argentinian here. I know Mexico very well. I know Peru. I go surfing a lot in Peru. I think we're in the right time, right place. That's the most concrete and the easiest way of representing Uruguay.
Well, we'll continue this conversation, and I definitely want to talk wine with all of you. Let's keep our answers short so that we can make this more.
Sorry.
No, it's not directed to you, but just as we're mindful about time. My next question is specific to Gabi and Javier. Mexico and Peru are two countries that have various regions, and each region will influence food locally. So as we're thinking of travel and as we're thinking of food, what are some regions that you think have heavily influenced the, sort of cuisine of each place, and which ones would you like to highlight? Let's start with you, Javier, and then Gabi can chime in.
Of course. So I would personally say that there is like this regional Peruvian cuisine that everybody should look at. I mean, we all know about all the popular dishes such as ceviche, lomo saltado, maybe our papas a la huancaína, right? With this ají amarillo and cheese-based sauce. I believe if you think about traveling to Peru, you need to think about all these regional cuisines that we call picanterias, which are places that have replaced the chicherias. All right, so chicherias were the places that you used to go with your family, with your friends, and enjoy different types of corn ciders. But now that the picanterias are still serving chicha, but they have these very traditional and dishes, and have maintained also some techniques such as the batan. Okay, batan is a technique that you use river stone, like hollow river stone, and you use another stone to start grinding your ingredients, and that's how they make the sauces. So if you go to the picanterias in Peru, most popular ones are in Arequipa, to the south of Lima. You will find a kitchen where they don't have any special equipment. They don't have probably a combi oven or a rational oven. They don't have stoves, regular stoves. They do use wood for their cooking. They use clay pots for their cooking. They use the batan, and they try to maintain most of the techniques that we have used for many years, for 1,000 years, as the batan, right? So I would definitely say that everybody would need to start looking over the regional cookings in Peru, throughout all the shore of Peru, through the Andes, and also the forest, right? The jungle in Peru, it's amazing. Actually, my mother-in-law, I'm sorry, my grandmother is from the forest. So I have enjoyed since child a lot of their food, and it's amazing. It's like a secret gem in Peru.
Gabi, please fill us in.
Oof, Mexican cuisine is, and I for this I admire Peru greatly because they, especially Gaston Acurio, was the first chef to actually bring like a national pride through food and communicate it to the rest of the world in a brilliant way in Latin America. And I think in Mexico, we've always been so full of ourselves because our gastronomy is so rich and the country is so large and it's so complex and we have so many regions that it's been more difficult, I think, for Mexicans to sort of come together. Like we've always, our food has been for centuries a mix of cultures and big cultures, right? Like very established cultures. So for example, food from the Central Valleys is considered, oh my goodness, my God, sorry. Food from the Central Valleys has been considered sort of the most well-known or official Mexican food, such as moles, for example. But then you have, Mexican food is, I guess, easily distinguished by its many spices and its like the complexity of many ingredients and recipes that are very layered, right? It has, like, for example, what we do with chiles. Chiles, you can eat them fresh, you can eat them dried, you can eat them cured, you can eat them dried and smoked and dried and roasted. It's just like there are so many levels to the processes of Mexican recipes. Now we're celebrating 10 years. This week, we celebrated 10 years of Mexican gastronomy being made world, Patrimonio de la Humanidad, World Heritage, Intangible Heritage by the UNESCO. And it's a great pride because in Mexico, I think now the world, I really agree with what you were saying, Juan Pablo, in terms of how sometimes the world catches up with what somebody has been doing forever. And for you, it's 28 years. But I think in Mexico, we've always been very interested in food. And since we are such good eaters and there's such diversity and richness in our food, in our markets, in our like party food, in our, every religious celebration has to do with different dishes and different regional specialties. So we've sort of always, it's been so abundant that I think Mexicans have taken it for granted until most recently. We've always been very proud of it, but I think until most recently, we have realized like what a patrimony it actually is in terms of tourism and in terms of just representation, a cultural representation abroad of the country as well. So I don't know. Everybody knows Oaxaca. Everybody knows cochinita pibil in Yucatan. And then we've had the experiences of chefs like Rene Redzepi doing one of his Noma pop-ups in Mexico, which was on the beach in Tulum. Tulum is a very touristic destination. It's exploded. So I don't know. I think I would highlight food from the north. There are so many extraordinary dishes from the north that have to do. It's also, again, the country is so large that you have specialties from the seashore, you have specialties from inland and the mountains, and you have different ways of curing meat. And I just think in Mexico, we always have known we have a great treasure in food. But I do think that now we are all just exploding in the exploration of different local ingredients that are more wild or rare, that we are all enjoying and playing around with. And it's a real pleasure to go to restaurants where chefs are experimenting with all these ingredients. Of course, COVID has made it very difficult for us to, move around and do this, but I don't want to extend more. I think just Mexican gastronomy is it's super varied and very complex to just pin down as one thing.
Right. I mean, I know that we could talk about this for hours. I want to switch the conversation a little bit towards wine. And Uruguay has such, I think, just a vast variety of different wine, and it's very underplayed. Not only is there Garzón, which you can, buy here in San Francisco, but I tasted wines from Casa Cartao, some smaller sort of independent wineries. There was one, I think it's called De la Ballena, that had different grapes that here we don't really get, not just Tanant, but also Viognier. Juan Pablo, what are some of the wines that you really want to support, that you use in your restaurant, and that should be on our radar? And you definitely want to unmute.
One thing is really important. We have the old world and the new world in the wine industry. The old world, everybody knows. The new world, Uruguay is the only country in the new world that faces the Atlantic Ocean. So, and it's the only country of the new world that normally has a complete, really different climate as the other countries of the new world. If you see, the new world is Canada, United States, Mexico, Peru, a little bit Peru, Chile, Argentina, Australia, New Zealand, Morocco. All of those countries are dry countries. No rain or little rain. The only country that has the same amount of humidity or the same climate as the old world is Uruguay. Nowadays, you can find in the States or in Argentina wines in the Atlantic Ocean. But it was Uruguay, the only country that's really similar as Bordeaux in France. We have the same estuaire, we have the same climate, the same quantity of water, of rainy. So we are in the right time, in the right place. Nowadays, all the wine critics, all that Sackling, Spencer, or Wine Spectator, boom, boom, are phasing to the new kind of wine, wine with less quantity of alcohol, with high acidity, really fresh wine. So Uruguay, we have exactly that. Because of the climate we've got, we have difficulties to get our grape with very good maturity. So we can find naturally things that Argentina is trying to make with going uphill in the mountains or harvesting a little bit early. So Uruguay, we have wonderful wine, and we have a wonderful climate for white wine. We are really known about our Tanat. Uruguay is a place of Tanat. But I think Uruguay has a really, really important, we have to focus ourselves in white wine. We have one of the best Albariños in the world. Albariño, if you see where Albariño is born, it's in Galicia. We have the same climate, 1,500 millimeters rain per day, per year, really humidity, really green, with very cold, not snowy, but cold and humidity winters. We have the same thing. We've been planting Albariño for the last 20 years, and now we are making wonderful Albariños right across the ocean. You spoke about del bodega de Punta Alto de la Ballena. They are planting near the ocean. I am making my own wine. We're starting in Garzón, in a little winery in Garzón, and we're planting almost everything is Albariño. Albariño is going to be the great white wine of Uruguay. It's going to be the pairing of Tanat and the pairing of all the wonderful coast we've got. Uruguay has more than 800 kilometers of coast, and we are a country that gives our back to the sea, and now we are turning a little bit and finding that we have a beautiful seas and beautiful products of the seas. So I think Albariño is going to be the top wine in the next 10 years for sure.
I couldn't agree more. I personally had a few Albariños while I was there, and I was blown away. I think that the white wine is much stronger than the red offering in many ways. I have a question now for all of the chefs, but at the same time, I want to go ahead and invite Alejandra. She was able to join us. As I mentioned, Alejandra is a beautiful recent mother. We're all very busy as mothers. Alejandra, if you're there, can you turn on your camera so that we can see you? And hopefully we'll get a chance to learn a little bit about Ecuador as well. While Alejandra is joining, the question I have for all of you is, if you were to collaborate with each other or with a particular country in mind, which country would that be and why? So I'll let you think about that while we give a warm welcome to Alejandra. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you're so busy. Tell us a little bit about Somos very briefly and some of the special Ecuadorian dishes out there that we should have on our radar.
So yeah, I'm really sorry I was late but I have this time. So a little bit about Somos and about myself. I was 15 years abroad, and then I came back 2 years ago to Ecuador because I wanted to work with our ingredients and create an offer that we can bring to the world. So I've been working on that for the past 2 years, and Somos focuses on products from different regions, and we try to make our food not only delicious but fun. I think that was my main goal since we created the restaurant, to make our food transport you to a different planet. So that's what we've been doing and what we're doing currently.
Thank you, Alejandra. So let's start, Javier, Gabriela, Juan Pablo, and we'll finalize with Alejandra. If you had to collaborate with a certain country or region, who would that be and why?
I would definitely say probably Mexico. It's a great country. I was amazed the other day. I was watching this documentary about the culture that they have with tacos, and I was completely jaw open because it was amazing how the people have got the tacos in general so inscribed in their daily lives. So I have been amazed because of that. About 4 years ago, we had a collaboration with Daniela Soto from New York. What was the name of the restaurant? From Cosme, I'm sorry. Yes, from Cosme. And it was amazing. We did so many stuff, and we found that we had so many, not exactly ingredients, but probably in general, like the pepper use or the use of chocolate in some of our recipes. So I would say probably I would love to do a collaboration with Mexico again, because we have so many stuff in common that I would love to use my stuff so we can do a great job.
Thank you, Javier. Gabi.
Hi, Javier. Let's do something together. Okay, me, I have, I mean, again, as Javier was saying, Mexican gastronomy is so complex that I just think of collaborations with different regions in Mexico. But every time that I've collaborated with chefs from other countries, it's turned out, I mean, it's a really wonderful and fun experiment. And, you know, I've even thinking of my collaborations with my Uruguayan friend chef, Ignacio Matos, who I'm sure you know, Juan Pablo, and that has been extraordinary. But it's sort of, you know, like cooking with an Italian chef. Well, it's great, but now I'm really interested in the similarities between Mexican gastronomy and different Indian regions. Because of the curries and the moles and the sauces, I think we have so much to learn. And Mexican gastronomy has been very influenced by, you know, by travelers during the colonial period. And another country that I'm really interested in is the Philippines, because it was part of the Spanish Empire at the same time. And there are so many similarities between the Philippines and Mexico. And you know, you never think of that. You think of, oh, the art or whatever, or the, you know, the tapestries or whatever they exchanged. But actually, there are so many similarities in the food, and even the words for things related to food are in Spanish still in the Philippines. Many things, and I would love to do something more serious in the Philippines, of like researching more about the food in the Philippines, not the Filipino food in the United States, which is also super interesting, but just like the relationship between food and commerce of ingredients, you know, from centuries ago.
Wonderful, Gabi. Juan Pablo.
I wrote this, Latin America. I think one day I was with a great chef in Spain, Martin Berazategui, that I have a good relationship with him. It was 10 or 12 years ago. and it was starting all this thing of local, no, local thing, local food, kilometer, 0 kilometro, I don't know in English, or kilometer zero. And he told me once, because he's not thinking that way, and I really want to take that thing for us, is think yourself and travel 1,000 kilometers abroad from the earth. What is local there? Local is the whole world. In the universe, what is local? The whole world. So for me, the best thing to do one day, perhaps in San Francisco, I don't know where, to find 3 or 4 or 5 different chefs from different countries, mix together and do whatever. That's what you have to do. Show our Latin America we are a beautiful region. Think 300 years ago, no boundaries.
I love that.
Uruguay, Uruguay has a really different thing with all these countries we are speaking about. We don't have Indians. We don't have our Indian heritage. It's almost zero. It doesn't exist. So we are actually more European than Latin American. 15 years ago was a really great thing. Nowadays it's not a great thing. But I think more in global thing, Latin America, thinking of Latin America like our home.
I love it. My whole body just resonated with the happiness of thinking of our region, and it's so representative of this coalition. Alejandra, coming from a region that has a strong indigenous population, country, Ecuador, who would you collaborate with and why?
I totally agree with Juan Pablo, and I was thinking the same because I think there's a lot of similarities between our countries, and it's just bringing ideas together and maybe collaborating on different products that some countries don't have that might bring that pop in certain dishes. But I think it's the collaboration of sharing what we have in each country and new techniques. So yeah, I don't think it's a country that I will want to share my knowledge or products. It's a whole, and that's something that we should focus and collaborate, because I think more than ever today we need to be strong and together. So it will be great already to cook with the amazing chefs that are here in the panel.
Wonderful, Ale.
And really, food is so much about collaborating. It's the collaborative part of cooking is one of the most important, and historically has been sort of a saving rock, I think, for cooks.
Okay. The most important part of a house is the kitchen and the family. And so it's the big family or the little family. It depends where you put yourself, but no one that.
Yeah, and I also believe sharing information, like, okay, about this product you don't know, but you might have, and I've studied it, but you can use it because I know you can use it. So it's sharing information between us. I think it's very, very important in order to grow our gastronomy as South America.
I would agree with. Sorry. So yeah, I would agree with Alejandra, because I would say nowadays, in cooking, in culinary in general, I would say sharing the idea, sharing ingredients is the most important thing. That's the way for everybody to grow faster. Because probably if you would think 20 years ago, if you would ask a cook or a chef or these Swiss and French chef that used to be in South America a lot, wouldn't share the recipe. So nowadays, I would say it's very important for you to share everything and to give the knowledge to younger cooks, so we all can grow.
I think it's really important to take out our incredible word that we used to or phrase. We used to cook it all our life. We used to cook it this way. We have to take that, because perhaps Gabriela or Javier or Alejandra said, but we can try to make this in our country, make this way. So you are always learning new things. Once I was in the French Laundry with Thomas Keller, and I was like for a stash, and they gave me a big case of carrots, and he gave me the carrots and says, you know how to peel them? And obviously I said, yes, I know. He turned back and he said, you lost the opportunity to learn a new way to peel carrots. You always say, I don't know, let me know how. And I think the same thing with products. If you have to say, well, no, perhaps there's a new way of making asado around the world, and I didn't know it, and perhaps someone knows better than me. Look, or a different way.
That's a wonderful metaphor for all things in life, not just food. For all of you chefs, I'm going to do a quick question where you just respond with 1 or 2 words. So one favorite dish that you love. Let's start with Javier, same order as before. Javier, one favorite dish that comes to
From
mind.
Peru,
Yes, from Peru.
lomo saltado, definitely.
Lomo saltado. Gaby.
Aguachile.
Chile, qué rico. Juan Pablo.
El chivito.
Un chivito.
Oof.
Ale.
Un seco de pollo.
That's the same thing with dessert. We are obviously running out of time and we need to wrap it up, but we didn't give enough time to dessert and wine pairings. But quickly, one word, favorite dessert of your country. Javier.
Picarones,
Carones, okay.
of course.
Gaby.
Favorite dessert of my country? Flan, which is so Spanish, but I just think that in Mexico, there are so many different varieties of flan.
And I have to be very honest and very biased, but your flan gala is by far my favorite. And I can say this because I've had flan in many countries throughout my travel. I always have 2 pieces. It's so bad. Juan Pablo.
We are 6,000 kilometers from Mexico, but I would say it's the same thing. Flan con dulce leche.
Uf, totalmente. Soufflé de dulce de leche.
Flan
Delicious.
con dulce leche. It's no flan con dulce leche.
Flan as well.
The same one as Gabriela.
See, this is why our region.
Tell you, the Spanish Empire.
Oh, they got us.
Alejandra.
I love a dish called pristiños, which is fried dough with a syrup. I love simple things, and that's one of my favorites.
Well, last question for all of you. If our audience members here had to choose one certain particular time in the year to visit where they can experience a certain food festival or, enjoy street food with a certain climate, what time of the year would that be? Javier, let's start again with you.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. If you had to choose one time of the year, so for example, the fall or spring or summer, or a month where there's either a specific food festival in your country or where it's the right climate to enjoy street food, what time of year would that be?
So it's a very difficult question just because there are many different type of climates in Peru throughout the year. But I would probably say my favorite one, it would be between spring and summer, where in certain regions you would find like a celebration for the welcoming of the spring. So they do a huge party, decorate a tree, they put their wishes on the tree, and then they will cut the tree up, so they would get their wishes in return. So yeah, I would probably say that between the spring and summer, you can enjoy the beaches throughout the shore. You have a good weather in the Andes. The jungle or the forest of Peru, it's always hot or warm. So definitely I would say spring and summer.
Wonderful. Gaby.
I'm a little bit biased because it just passed, but I would say Day of the Dead is a really special festivity in all of Mexico, throughout the regions. So it's a very interesting, like both culturally and from the culinary perspective. So it's a great time to visit. But there's parties all the time in great regions all the time, and it's a large country, so come.
Juan Pablo.
I think the best time in Uruguay is the end of summer and the start of autumn or fall. I think we're going to find everything that we have is in the right time and right place there. No? Vegetables, fruits, meat, fish, everything.
And I probably want to mention to our audience that when you say summer, you're talking about January, February, right?
I was talking about
That is correct,
March and April.
Oh, March and April. Okay. Important because the Southern Cone has somewhat of a different
Yes,
calendar.
yes.
So March and April, folks, that's the best time. Ale.
I will say Dia de los Muertos, the same here, because we have colada morada and guaguas de pan, and actually the guaguas is the concept of my current restaurant, so it's my favorite time. and also to visit Ecuador because I love mountains, and it's the best time to climb the highest mountains because the weather is on our side, only if the mountain allows us. So it's a really good time to come and visit.
Well, thank you so much. Clearly, we could continue talking for hours. There's so much wealth here to share. I want to thank you all for your time today with your busy schedules. I want to also leave you an opportunity. Any closing remarks? Okay, it sounds like then we're good. If there are any questions, we will communicate directly. For all our audience members who stayed on, most of you did. Thank you so much. Thank you again to our speakers prior to our chefs, and enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Safe,
Good to know you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.